Hello and welcome back to Shone's Thoughts. You're here with me live on location in what is my backyard for tonight. Actually, it'll end up being my front door, my back door, my side door, all the yards. Actually, not the door, but the yards, yeah. So, thank you for joining me today in this amazingly beautiful place that took me a really long time to essentially decide I was going to take the plunge. And it's very interesting because all night I'll have all of this water reminding me that in fact I did take the plunge. And what's that plunge, you ask? Well, if you decide you want to invest your time in listening to this recording that I will upload tomorrow probably when I visit Starbucks. They're not exactly close to where I am, but nonetheless they're a definite place where I can upload videos that I take when I'm not able to do them live. And I apologize to anyone who did see that I had an upload or a live stream that was going to happen tonight. I just was unable to get to a space where I could, fulfill that commitment. Yesterday I did my first podcast for Possibilities, where I spoke about the idea of a world without borders. So if you have an opportunity, and I remember, I'll put it up here or put it at the end, or you can just go look for my other podcast called Possibilities and look for it. It's talking about open borders and, what would a world look like if we did have that. And the reason why I brought that up is because when I did that podcast, I wasn't really feeling like I wanted to do it. For a long time, I've hesitated to actually fulfill that guidance to create my Possibilities podcast, as well as, the book that I was working on, I guess, as well as a lot of other things. I was essentially guided to do it because I used to walk through the forests. I have a lot of forests around where I once lived. And I would always, pull out the what if question. What if so-and-so wasn't telling the truth? What if this was a whole big psyop? What if I should do this and I should do that? Now, I wasn't doing it from a negative perspective. A lot of times people will pull out that what if card and they'll use it for what if the worst case scenario happened? And yet, when I look at the what ifs, I look at it as possibility and wonder. What if there was something better kind of idea? And that's what the podcast Possibilities is all about. It's about exploring the possibilities that lie beyond the known, lie beyond those things that we've been told had to be programmed. And, it's just the way it was because the great grandmother's sister's cousin's boyfriend's sister's girlfriend's daughter's son, they did it that way too, so we're going to do it this way. See, we have often found that we do things out of essentially routine and sometimes programming, right? And a lot of other times it's out of expectation. Someone expects us to act a certain way, and therefore, in order to live up to the Joneses, we go off and we get that new iPhone, iPad, computer, Game Boy back a long time ago, when it's possible a lot of times we don't really even need it. And so anyways, that's all about my Possibilities podcast. Definitely go over to Apple or Spotify or Audible. It's there now too. Anywhere you'd like, and hopefully it'll be there for you. Or you can just come here to YouTube and watch me on YouTube or Rumble. So many different places for me to shine my light. So, as I was saying, thank you so much for sharing your time and attention with me. Now, I was going to say something that I had kind of prefaced up into to talk about, and then I suddenly started talking about something different. So I apologize for that. If you recall and you were actually interested in what I was going to say, then definitely, maybe now you'll leave a comment. If it's something I promised to say and I didn't say, and you were that intrigued by it, maybe you'll remind me. So, today we're here. Oh, yeah. See, I already was reminding myself. the challenge to get to this location went through so many different moments. See, when I was taking my trip across the country, across Canada, traveling from Nanaimo all the way to Montreal, I would often, well, not often, I never had a plan of where I was going to stay. I always felt when I arrived at the place that I was supposed to stay at, that was the right place. And oftentimes it ended up being the perfect place. There were so many different perfect places that I could have stopped, and yet there were so many places in between that I thought to stop. And when I say thought to stop, I mean I was tired, I was run down, or we were out of gas, so we had to stop anyway, so maybe we'll just stop here. And yet every time that I stopped somewhere where I shouldn't have stopped, where I was, going towards maybe other reasons for stopping, like I said, being tired or, being frustrated or lots of other different reasons, hungry sometimes too, I would just continue pressing on. And then I would eventually stop in the exact perfect spot. And why I say that is because it ended up having something so unique at the place I stopped. There was this one stretch towards the end of my trip where I kept stopping in so many towns because part of me wanted to slow the trip down because we were getting towards the end of the trip. So if I stopped here, that means that I would therefore have maybe an extra day. And I was really enjoying it. Not so much the driving. I'd really love to have someone, who can share the driving with. However, I kept pressing on. And I would get out, I would check the hotels, I would see what's available, I would scoff at the price sometimes, and some of them were ridiculous. The one town that I stopped at just before where I end up stopping at, and this is where this particular story goes to, the price was like $300, and it was for an almost rundown resort in the middle of a very small town. And I couldn't understand it. I thought, well, maybe they're just overly booked, but their parking lot was empty. It was obvious that there were reasons why, because when I made it to the next town, I ended up finding this amazing deal on a casino hotel. Now, I got through my whole thing with gambling, so I had no desire at all to go to the casino. Yet this wasn't your normal casino. It was actually a casino that they had put on a reserve in a former residential school for Aboriginal children back in the day. And they had turned it into a top-notch luxury casino and hotel. Like, it was spectacular, and the price was phenomenal, much better than the price for that other one that I was looking at. And it essentially was encased in a huge golf course that I was able to walk out at night and see the stars. There was perfect stars in the sky, no clouds, the crickets, and the whole thing. Luckily, I wasn't able to hear any of the slot machines. Not that I would have cared, but it definitely would have ruined the tranquility upon me that was, brushing up on all sides of me at that night. And it was such a safe place as well. Like, I could feel the energy. And nearby there was an actual, I'm not sure what, now I know what they're called, but suddenly I lost it. But there was a building where everyone gets in and it's a circle and there's a roof on it. I don't want to call it by the wrong name, so I'm hesitating to even try different names. But anyways, we were on, as I said, a residential school area. There was even a old church, an old, let's conform or convert everyone into our religion type of church. And it was kept there for whatever reason it was. And there were other buildings as well that were dedicated to the actual Aboriginal peoples of that particular, I guess you could say, tribe, if that's the right word. And it was the perfect spot. As well as there was other spots. One time I was driving, and I was getting a lot of pain, but I wasn't really paying attention because it was the beginning of the trip. I was high on adrenaline, you could say, like excited to go off, and I was doing long drives, and there was this one time where it was raining so much. It literally was that we were underneath the Niagara Falls. The water was just like dropping on the windshield, and I had to stop, and that ended up being a really long day. And when we finally did stop, I was so tired, worn down, and it was the perfect place to stop because we were close by to an amazing massage place. And this physiotherapist massage guy, he did an amazing job on, helping a lot of the issues that I was feeling. And yeah, so even coming to this exact spot right now, as I was saying, I had to go through a lot of different situations in order to get here. When I woke up this morning, I woke up in a town called Hope. That's where I've been for the last few days, staying at an amazing campsite there with lots of other people. And yet, I kind of also wanted to try doing what I'm doing right now, and I'll get to that in a second. And so I got up, packed everything up, got back on the highway, started driving, got to an intersection. One way was this place called Harrison Hot Springs. The other place was Agassiz. And so I thought, oh, well, I guess I'm going to Harrison Hot Springs because I was kind of just following my intuitive feeling. And when I got there, I pulled up, parked, had a guy yell at me because I had turned into a one-way street without recognizing it. And, I thanked him for helping me, and that actually really frustrated him. Nonetheless, I parked the car, and I thought, okay, well, maybe the reason why I'm here is there's this place called Sandy Cove in Harrison Hot Springs. And you actually have to do a 40-minute hike approximately through some, treacherous, you could say, rugged mountain type of hike. Like it's definitely it's definitely for sober people. And anyways, so I got there and I hiked around, and then I went and then I got to the Sandy Cove, and the Sandy Cove is basically a beach in the middle of, a forest. It actually has like real sand from a beach. It's like awesome. And I always imagined myself camping there. And, I honestly always imagined myself camping there with other people, like friends and family, perhaps. And yet when I got there, I didn't feel the energy was right. But yet I sat there, I meditated for a little bit in quietness. I had a dog come up to me, although his owner preferred that the dog stayed away from me for some reason. She kept calling him back. So I felt, okay, well, maybe I'm here and I'm supposed to go further in. So I ended up finding another trail that led further into another place, and then I went all the way there, and I thought, okay, well, maybe I'm supposed to be camping here, but I didn't feel overly comfortable there. Yet maybe could have, I guess. But the challenge with that particular place was, as I had said, I would have to hike back in over 1 hour to get back to that location so that I could even hike there. So my shirt full of sweat, my armpits stinking. I was like, nope, I'm not going to come back this time. It was a cove, so in the future, if I do it, I'll take a boat to go there. And so I ended up going back to the car. The guy was long gone by then. And then continuing to drive on, in which I went to several other areas thinking, okay, well, maybe, just maybe, this is where I'll go. And yet, each of those areas was a nope. And then through synchronicity, I actually met up with my cousin who's out doing the same or similar thing right now, just out experiencing life. And we met at a random spot that I would never have imagined meeting anyone that I knew at. I had just pulled over in the car to have a little bit of a rest, and suddenly he was there. And yeah, we drove around for a little bit. I parted ways with him a few hours ago, and driving to a different location that I thought I would stay at because I had once been there a long time ago, I drove by this exact location. And it was love at first sight. Isn't this beautiful? As I said, this is the backyard, or the front yard, or the side yard, or whatever it is. This is what I'll be listening to the whole night if you can hear the water, although I recognize the sound of the water for me right now is a lot louder than it is for you. I tested the microphone to see how much, this water noise makes. It almost sounds like white noise when it comes into the microphone, but yet hopefully my excitement and my voice will counteract a lot of that white noise that comes through. I just had to share this whole experience, and I definitely will do that other podcast, the one that I missed today about what is debt, because that is definitely an important conversation, especially with the situation that I find myself in nowadays, being where I'm being and deciding to take a stand for wanting to live the life that I would choose to live. And so if you're hearing this and you like that idea, perhaps, maybe the next action that you're given when it relates to the life that you want to live, that you'll, step up to the plate and not shy away. And, I've had a lot of amazing people that I've been listening to over the last few years, especially, that have given me a lot of confidence and have helped me out a lot. So in a sense, part of the reason why I do the Shone's Thoughts podcast is a kind of like paying it forward. It doesn't matter to me whether or not people agree with me, disagree with me, love me, hate me. I prefer the love part because I want to be connected to love in all ways that I can possible. Yet, it essentially is irrelevant how people perceive what I'm doing, because I've recognized that there are those people out there that definitely would benefit from an encouragement to living the life that we would choose to live. Because if you're like me, you've looked at the world for quite a long time, whether it's been a few years or 10 years or all of your life, and you've seen this isn't the way that life is supposed to be. You've seen those, disparities and inconsistencies and incongruencies and all those lovely words that essentially show us that there's something beyond the lines. It's kind of like that movie, Free Guy, in which they created a whole entire game world just outside of the main game world. And the main game world was an amazing place, an amazing, more so natural. And that Free Guy, he was stuck living in an office building or working in an office building, living in a bank or doing whatever anyways. But the point was he was stuck in a city. But yet when he had the ability to, move those shutters of his, or window shades of his home, he was able to see a little bit of the true reality that laid far beyond, and for a consistent amount. We live in a world that is so humongous. It's not overcrowded. I'm sorry to say to all those people, if you think the world's overcrowded, get out in the world and see that it's not. There is so much space out there for everyone to have the most ideal life and live in harmony with nature. Live in harmony. Not try to knock down all the trees so you can build your house, but build your house around the trees. And, lots of other things. So, thank you for joining me tonight on Shone's Thoughts. Thank you for sharing this sunset with me. Thank you for, supporting me simply by listening, simply by being there on the other side of this microphone. And, I know and I trust one day a lot more people are going to comment. I often say comment is about self-reflection, but yet I honestly get excited when I get to read an in-depth and interesting comment. It not only shows me or displays to me or validates, that there are other people out there. It also interests me because I do really care what other people like me are doing. Because I truly do believe that the more of us that start connecting, start forming communities, even if they're online communities, even if they're only through the comments, that the more of us that start talking and communicating, the stronger that this whole new earth will come into be. Like more faster. That's wrong grammar, but you get what I mean. And so, yeah, if you feel called to, definitely subscribe, like, but comment. And more importantly, join the Telegram or the Patreon community. You can join both of them for free. I'm not asking for anything. I would love to, start funding projects and start living the life of my dreams and showing the world how they can live the life of their dreams. So, if you're interested in that, come be a founder and let's get things done. So I'll be uploading this tomorrow, and as I said, I definitely will get to that other podcast coming soon. And definitely head on over to my possibilities video that I'll hopefully put at the end of this video, and come see what I imagine a world without boundaries, without borders could possibly be. Yes, there's a little bit of wind that was trying to distort the message that day, but yet, I'm outside. We're going to have wind and we're going to have water, and that's just the way it's going to be. So thank you so much for sharing your time and attention with me, and enjoy a couple more minutes of this beautiful, beautiful river. And by the way, if you're on Apple, Spotify, or Audible, definitely head over to YouTube or Rumble so that you can see the video version of this, because this is just an immaculate back, front, side yard that I'm sleeping in tonight. In my tent, of course. I'm not just sleeping out underneath the stars. But yet, I hope to do that one day. But I'd prefer to do that, honestly, in a grassy field with a whole bunch of people. Anyways, have a great night.